Are you excited for the White House card? That looks really good.
Yes. I'm excited. It sounds crazy. I know it's going to be very high security and high stress and weird to have a fight at the White House in the middle of a fucking war. But I would hope the war will be sorted out by June, but quite honestly, I'm not confident that that's going to be the case.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, so that would be weird.
Yeah.
Having this very high profile event where everybody's in one place at one time right there.
I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah.
So you're not excited to be
Well,
there?
that seems like seems like you're asking for.
Holy shit!
Yeah.
I hadn't thought of that at all.
How could you not think of that?
Well, because I'm not going to be there. You're the one that has to think of it. Me.
He's a once-in-a-generation talent. He knocked out in 3 fights 3 all-time greats. Volkanovski, then he knocks out Max Holloway, and then he knocks out Charles Oliveira. Like, who knocks out Charles Oliveira in the first round like that? He can take it, too. When he was competing at featherweight, he took a fight at lightweight against Jai Herbert. Jai Herbert, in the first round, caught him with a perfect head kick, dropped him, and then the second round, Ilia just put him into the shadow realm.
Is he good at grappling as well?
He's phenomenal at grappling.
Really?
That's his main base.
I didn't even know that. Because you don't see that much nowadays. He just knocks everyone out.
He's fucking spooked.
Main event, yeah, they are. Justin Gaethje's going to lose to Ilia Topuria in the main event in the White House. If he pulls it off, it'll be cinema, okay? And I'll assume that the rig is in. And Topuria has been paid $10 million to make the US look good on the world stage. Because Gaethje, he's the all-American. He's red, white, he bleeds red, white, and blue, brother. You know what I mean? He's going to be there. He's the only American that's even in conversations to ever be in a title fight. Unless they did Yan O'Malley too. Which people would still complain about, by the way. But it's the only other way they could have a US fighter in a title fight. Jones was never coming back. But Topuria Gaethje's a sick fight. Amazing fight. Love it. I think it's great as the main event of this White House card. But we could have done with a stronger undercard.
Topuria. And Ilia Topuria is one of the absolute best fighters in the world. He's the current UFC featherweight champion. The dude is just phenomenal. But when you, one of the things that's phenomenal about him is his technique. His technique is...
Main event, Ilia Topuria, one of the most sensational champions we've ever seen inside the octagon, facing Justin Gaethje, which I think is the absolute perfect matchup for him. Justin deserves it after the Paddy Pimblett fight. Ilia Topuria has been just a complete and total phenom. And
2 title fights. It was not the 7 to 8 title fights as was initially promised. It's a marquee main event. I know that there are some people who are upset. I know that there are some people who are trying to say like, hey, this is a letdown. This is an incredible 6-fight card. And it was never going to be 7 to 8 title fights. That was never going to happen. That would screw up the rest of their schedule. Ilia Topuria coming back against Justin Gaethje is a massive, massive fight. It is a marquee fight. It is one of the biggest fights of the year. Topuria coming back after everything he's been through, almost exactly a year between fights, is a very big deal.
The UFC has now confirmed the full lineup for the White House card, and one matchup immediately took over the conversation. Dana White announced that Ilia Topuria will defend his lightweight title against interim champion Justin Gaethje in a massive unification fight, and from the second that news landed, the spotlight snapped right to them. Fans started reacting, analysts jumped in, and fighters across the sport all seemed to lock onto the same subject because this is the kind of pairing that can dominate an entire event by itself. Topuria did not sit around letting the moment breathe. Almost as soon as the announcement became public, he began posting early training clips from camp, and that instantly changed the mood around the fight. It no longer felt like some future booking people would talk about later. One, it felt active, it felt underway, and it felt like both the event and the build-up had just kicked into a higher gear. That made the matchup feel more serious right away, and once the fight was official, almost every conversation about the card started circling back to the same main event. At the center of all this excitement is a very simple truth. One man is one of the cleanest and most dangerous finishers in the sport, and the other is one of the most aggressive and fearless action fighters MMA has ever seen. Put those two together on a stage this big, with a title on the line and the setting carrying this much attention, and people are going to talk. That is exactly what happened here. What gives this fight its real pull is not only the belt and not only the names attached to it, it is the collision of styles. On the pressure that comes with the White House setting, and the feeling that once they start exchanging, something huge could happen at any second. Every part of it feels loaded, every piece of it feels dangerous. That is why this matchup grabbed the sport so quickly, and that is why so many people already see it as the fight that could define the entire card. The first training footage from Topuria's camp gave people a strong look at where he seems to be mentally and physically, and he did not even need to explain anything. The clips did the talking for him. He looks sharp, settled, and completely focused on the task ahead. His striking sequences are tight, the footwork work is clean, and the sparring appears measured. On with an obvious focus on timing and reactions instead of wild gym wars that mean nothing once the cage door shuts. What stands out most is the discipline running through everything he is doing. This does not look like a fighter trying to win social media approval by showing off how hard he can train. It looks like a champion refining the small details before camp gets even tougher. His movement has purpose behind it, his reads look quick, and the whole setup gives off the feeling of someone who understands the challenge in front of him and is building toward it with patience. That matters a lot in a fight against Justin Gaethje, because Gaethje is the kind of opponent who can drag anyone into chaos if they lose their structure for even a moment. A training approach built around control, spacing, and precision says plenty on its own. It shows that Topuria is not treating the danger lightly, and it shows that he knows exactly what kind of storm he could be stepping into. Even though the clips are short, they still reveal plenty. There is no rush in what he is doing, no wasted motion, and no sign that he is forcing the process. He looks like a fighter who wants every exchange to happen on his terms, and that alone has made a lot of people believe he is entering this fight with the mindset of a man who plans to stay one move ahead from start to finish. Dana White has not been subtle about how he sees this matchup. From where he stands, Topuria versus Gaethje is not just another title fight placed on a big show. He clearly views it as the right main event for a night carrying this kind of historical weight. And that says a lot about how strongly the UFC feels about what these two bring to the table. He has spoken very highly of Ilia Topuria, describing him as one of the most impressive champions on the roster right now. That kind of praise is not random promotion talk. It reflects how the company views Topuria at this point in his career, and it tells you they see him as one of the standout names in the sport today. Dana also pointed to Justin Gaethje's most recent performance as the reason he earned this opportunity, which makes it clear the UFC believes both men are coming into this fight with real momentum behind them. From Dana's angle, this is exactly the kind of fight you want at the top of a White House card. On one side, there is a champion who has looked polished, dangerous, and extremely hard to solve. Across from him stands a fighter known for pressure, violence, and the ability to swing a fight in his favor with one exchange. When you take those ingredients, put a title over them, and place the whole thing in a setting this rare, the result is a main event that feels big enough for the moment. That is why the UFC is pushing this fight so hard. It checks every major box at once. It has danger, it has contrast, it has momentum, and it has a stage unlike anything the sport has seen before. When the promotion talks about building around a headline fight, this is the kind of matchup they mean, and Dana White has made it clear Demetrius Johnson is firmly in the group that sees this as an outstanding main event. And his support carries weight because it is coming from someone who understands fighting at the highest level as well as anyone. He is not backing it just because the setting is unusual or because the card is getting extra attention. What he likes is the fight itself, the layers inside it, and the choices each man will have to make once the action starts. Right now, Johnson views Topuria as the rightful favorite. The reasons are easy to follow. He brings a complete skill set, he fights with intelligence, he has shown durability, and he carries real power that can change everything with one clean shot. That combination makes him a very difficult problem because every exchange with him carries risk. He does not need a lot of openings to make somebody pay, and that is one of the biggest reasons so many people are taking him seriously in this matchup. At the same time, Demetrius is paying close attention to the version of Justin Gaethje that shows up with a plan. He brought up the fact that Gaethje has adjusted his style in past fights based on who was standing across from him. There have been nights when Gaethje has stepped away from all-out brawling and used a more selective, more measured striking approach. That point matters here because this is not a fight where charging forward recklessly is guaranteed to give him the best chance. Johnson seems especially interested in what happens once Topuria starts pressing and forcing decisions. That is where Gaethje's discipline could become one of the biggest storylines in the fight. If Justin can stay composed, choose his moments well, and avoid getting dragged into mistakes, the shape of the contest changes. If he cannot, then the pressure Topuria brings could become overwhelming. That battle between Topuria's forward threat and Gaethje's decision-making may turn into one of the most important parts of the whole night. Ariel Helwani has pushed back hard on the idea that the White House card should be treated like a letdown just because it does not feature a crazy number of title fights. In his view, that criticism only grew because fans built an unrealistic version of the event in their heads, and once people started talking online as if 7 or 8 belts would somehow be featured, the expectations drifted far away from reality. That is the point he keeps hammering. A card should be judged for what it actually becomes, not for some fantasy version people created and then convinced themselves was likely. A major event does not need titles stacked from the first fight to the last one to feel important. It needs a strong identity, a clear centerpiece, and a main event that feels dangerous enough and meaningful enough to carry the entire show. Helwani's argument is that rumor and fan imagination pushed the bar to a place no real event was ever going to reach. Once that happens, even a good lineup can get hit with unfair criticism because people are no longer reacting to the actual card. They are reacting to the one they invented for themselves. That gap creates disappointment that is not really about the finished product at all. Because of that, he does not buy the idea that this lineup somehow failed. He sees the negative reaction from part of the fanbase as the result of expectations getting inflated way past what was realistic. When that happens, even a powerful main event can get judged too harshly. His view is simple and direct. The card was never going to match every wild idea floating around online, and that does not mean the final version is weak. Helwani also pointed out how quickly Topuria versus Gaethje came together, and that part of the story changes the way a lot of people see this main event. From what he has heard, the UFC first chased other massive fights, but those talks hit problems, and the negotiations never fully came together. That left the promotion in a tough spot because an event of this size cannot afford to feel unfinished at the top. Once those earlier plans stalled, the clock became a real factor. The UFC needed something with enough weight to give the card a real center, and they needed it fast. In that moment, a unification fight between Ilia Topuria and Justin Gaethje was not just another option sitting on the table. It became the move that gave the event fresh energy and a headline fans could immediately lock into. That is why Helwani framed it as more than a late replacement. In his eyes, this was not a fight that simply took up empty space on a schedule. It restored the feeling that the card had a true main event. Without a real centerpiece, the White House show would have been open to non-stop criticism, and the UFC clearly needed something that carried danger, star power, and real stakes. Topuria versus Gaethje answered that problem quickly. It brought the belt, it brought style contrast, and it brought the kind of tension that people understand the second they hear the names. Instead of the event feeling like it was still missing its biggest piece, this matchup gave it one. That is why Helwani sees it as a fight that did more than fill a slot. In a very real way, it saved the event from feeling incomplete. MMA Guru has also dismissed the conspiracy talk that started popping up around this fight. Some fans began pushing the idea that the UFC would never let Justin Gaethje lose if he were the American headliner in a White House main event, but Guru does not see any real logic in that. To him, that line of thinking is fan-created noise, not something based on what actually decides fights after the cage door closes. His position is much more straightforward. If this matchup plays out according to current form, then Ilia Topuria should be favored, and he should be favored for real fight-based reasons. He is younger, he is right in the middle of his athletic prime, and he carries true one-shot knockout power. That is the kind of danger Gaethje has to respect every second he is in front of him, because one error can flip the entire fight. At the same time, Guru understands exactly why Gaethje would welcome this kind of matchup. Justin's style creates action almost automatically. He moves forward, he trades, and he is comfortable in violent exchanges that many other fighters would rather avoid. That means the fight is likely to carry tension right away. way, because both men have the kind of power that can end things in a flash. Guru's point is that the threat goes both ways, but when you look at age, timing, momentum, and finishing ability, it makes sense that a lot of people are leaning toward Topuria. That does not erase Gaethje's danger at all. It just means that when people break the fight down honestly, there are clear reasons why Topuria is being viewed as the man with the edge heading into this one. Justin Gaethje has said that once this fight became official, Camp basically picked right back up. He had no desire to take a long pause, reset slowly, or ease his way back into training. He wanted to roll straight from one preparation into the next, keep his rhythm moving, and stay in that competitive frame of mind without wasting time. That tells you a lot about the way he is approaching this opportunity. For Gaethje, this fight means far more than just another shot at a belt. He has spoken about his roots in a small Arizona town, his family's copper mining background, and the pride he feels in representing where he comes from. Putting all of that onto a White House stage gives the moment a completely different kind of emotional weight. In his eyes, this is not just another major date on the UFC calendar. It feels like a once-in-a-lifetime stage. That is why his words about the fight carry so much feeling. This is not only about becoming champion, it is also about bringing his story, his hometown, and his family history into a setting unlike anything the sport has ever seen. The title matters, of course, but the meaning goes far beyond the belt itself. Gaethje has a chance to represent his country, his background, and the road that brought him here on a stage no fighter has ever competed on before. That gives this fight another emotional layer heading into the event, because for him, this is not just competition. It is personal pride, family history, and a rare chance to stand in a moment that may never come around again. If you made it this far, subscribe to the channel, hit like, and tell us in the comments who you are backing, Ilia Topuria or Justin Gaethje, and how you think this fight ends on the White House lawn.